to another episode of Coach Al's TimeOut. As the season starts to approach, I figured a lot of you guys are spending time either coming up with your game plan for your team or figuring out how you're going to put the stuff you worked on this entire summer together and on the court. So I've been doing a lot of putting things together for the team, and I wanted to share a little bit with you guys. Today's topic is going to be about defense, but before we get into that, let's just talk about the goal in basketball. The past 8-9 months, I spent a lot of time around a lot of different basketball, whether it's boys or girls, whether it's young kids, adults, college athletes. And it's become much more clear to me that a lot of kids are missing the entire goal of the game. So it comes down to two simple factors, right? You have two goals. Goal one is to score the basketball in your goal. Goal two is to stop the other team from scoring the basket in your goal. Pretty simple, but when you ask that question to a lot of basketball players, they don't come up with the right answer, or anything similar to that, I should say. So when you go from there, we talk about defense and what's entailed in defense to be a good defensive team. Now, accountability is always the key on teaching any team how to be successful, and that's going to come back around. But before we get into that, let's stick on the topic of what makes a team a very good defensive team. Here you can see a couple things. You need to have active hands, right? You got to get your hands on balls and deflections. You got to be able to communicate. Got to be able to rebound, because if you don't rebound, you don't get the ball. And guess what? You're giving the other team a higher chance of putting their ball in your basket. And more importantly, you got to be disruptive. That's the entire moral around defense. You've got to stop that other team from doing what they want to do, or at least make it as hard as possible. That way, hopefully they're tied by the fourth quarter. Now, here's where accountability comes into play. If you discuss these things, like active hands, boxing out, rebounding, closing gaps, taking space, communicating, and you make it a focus point, early on in your season, you've created your step to hold your team accountable. The example I like to use when coaching a team is teaching Spanish. If any of you have ever had a Spanish class, you know that before you can learn how to speak an entire sentence in Spanish, you kind of got to learn the small words and how to build a sentence. It's the same thing with the team. You've got to be able to say, hey, this is what defense is about, and these are the things that are required. Then you can put it all together. Once you've done that, it's a simple conversation, and you can avoid the yelling to your team simply by saying, in your opportunity of playing time, did you at any point in time contribute to any of the things that leads to a successful team on defense? Which are, again, active hands, deflections, charges, steals, boxing out, rebounding. But it's a perfect time to segue into another topic, and that's how do you keep the ones engaged that don't get much playing time? And this always rattled me. It's pretty simple. The game of basketball leads to great things in life if done properly and well. So for those who don't get playing time, there's a couple things on the defensive side that can lead to a great transition in your entire life. For example, you got to be able to communicate. You have to be willing to make sacrifices. And I can tell you right now, if you want the finer things in life, you might have to give up your Friday and Saturday nights so that you're in the gym shooting. Or Friday and Saturday nights so that you're studying for that big test. Teamwork, selflessness, sacrifice, a couple of other ones, patience, mental toughness, and resiliency. Mental toughness, resiliency are two of the key ones. You have to understand that you are going to get scored on here and there. But you have to be willing to get back in the next possession and try just as hard, if not harder. So, for all of you coaches who are struggling and finding a way to keep your players who aren't getting as much playing time engaged, these are a couple things that you can focus on for their personal development and their personal life. For those of you who struggle on holding your team accountable, here's a couple ways of holding them accountable. Try it, implement it, let me know how it goes. I'll be back with another timeout soon. I'm not burning them all yet.